Locked On Texans, your daily Houston Texans podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Locked On Texans listeners, viewers, and fans of the Houston Texans. I am John, some sports guy Hickman. Alongside of me is Cody Davis. This is a different style and version of the Locked On Texans podcast. This is what we call our Quick Hit. And don't forget to check out on tomorrow the crossover edition with the Locked On Cardinals. But today, you guys saw the tweet. You guys saw the news. We all know what's going on around the NFL with Houston Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson, number 4, who has not played this year. We know that he has requested a trade. This happened early in the year. We know that he has 22 allegations. We know a lot that's going on, but we may know a little bit more, and hopefully you guys will after today's show. Cody, go ahead and give them the breaking news with the Quick Hit.
Yes, sir. And for those of you guys who do not know, on today, John McClain of the Houston Chronicle reported that the Miami Dolphins and the Houston Texans are working towards a deal, of course, to send Watson to Miami. And there's a lot of moving parts. And John McClain also mentioned that this deal could get done as soon as the end of this week. And it makes sense because the Miami Dolphins, they're 1-5. They're trying to salvage what has been a lost season. And we're inching closer to the trade deadline, which is set for November 2nd. After hearing this news, I had an opportunity to do some research myself, had an opportunity to reach out to some credible, reliable people, and I have been told that this is going to be a 3-team trade. One of the teams that are expected to get involved is the Washington football team, and that will actually send Tua to Washington during this exchange. There's a lot of moving parts that's going on right now. John, the listeners, what I would say from what I know right now, do not be surprised if Deshaun Watson isn't the only Texan player who could be on the move throughout this deal.
You know, I want to talk about something and hit on something really quick before I look at Deshaun Watson, because your last line is very important. Coach Culley was asked about the culture. He spoke on the culture earlier today. That was a great question, by Kim Davis. And one thing that he hinted on was the culture is still a work in progress, and they still gotta keep it going. And we've heard about the issues with Zach Cunningham. I'm going to highlight him as another player that could potentially be on the move. This isn't a fact at this time. This is just my own speculation before we talk about Deshaun Watson. But we know about his tardies. We know how he has lost snaps in the last few weeks. We know that he's been outplayed, and we know that he still has had problems that's carried over from the Bill O'Brien area, still tackling high, still not good in coverage. And a lot of times what I'm seeing is he's not even getting out for blocks anymore, whether that may be a lack of will or want to, or just don't give a damn. I wouldn't be surprised if he is that player that will be on the move in coming weeks. And I've mentioned that before on the show as well. Now, I do want to get to the Deshaun Watson and Miami discussion. Xavier Howard to Houston, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not 100% sure about that, okay? Wouldn't surprise me if that doesn't fall through. He's due nearly $30 million for the next 2 years. That's a lot for a non-contender to take on. Just my speculation, teams like Tennessee, Green Bay, and Kansas City potentially could make a move for him. And so a lot of people are looking at maybe the possible union, not reunion, but union, or homecoming rather. That makes more sense, of a Howard to Houston. But right now, Howard is in the prime of his career, and it would make no sense for Miami to send him to Houston. So they may also include him into possible potential trade, maybe to Washington. Who knows? There's a lot of moving parts, as Cody mentioned. What we do know is offloading Howard will help Miami land Deshaun Watson, who is due to make $30+ million next year alone. And so they're not able to really, financial-wise, have both of those contracts under one roof at one time without hurting a lot, okay? I also want to look at right now, Miami has the 13th pick for the 2022 draft, 1 second, 1 third, the 2 4th-rounders. Other young players to look at for Houston, whose head coach has said they are prioritizing younger players, would be a Christian Wilkerson for Miami. Right guard Robert Hunt, who I think the experience, not experience, I think the, what can I call it for lack of words, the Max Sharpen experience, that trial and error. I think we went through that trial. I think we found that error, and I think it's time to move on from Max Sharpen at that right guard position. Robert Hunt, who we look at Miami as a total and say, well, they don't run the ball good, but Robert Hunt is a damn good pass protection, and he's very decent in that run blocking scheme as well. So that's another player that I'll look out for. He only has 1 sack this year and 3 penalties so far. Now, when we look at the possibility of Washington getting involved, that's very important. That is very important. We've seen the yes and no's and maybes and so's on Tua to Washington, but that makes perfect sense. You're still getting a first-round quarterback in his second year now on a rookie contract. He needs a fresh start because of the injuries, and we look at Tua as a player who hasn't made it to the expectations that we thought he would be. But
hasn't had a fair chance.
Hasn't, and let me say this, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Tua, whatever the lack that he has, whatever he's lacking, he's in a situation that Vince Young was drafted to. Your head coach don't want you. Your owner wanted you, but your head coach don't want you. And so, yes, it's going to be bad. Brian Flores has never committed to Tua Tagovailoa as his quarterback. Dan Snyder is a owner where look who's on their roster right now. They got a couple of Alabama guys. And they need a quarterback that's not Taylor Heinicke. Taylor Heinicke was a great story. He was a story that he's one of those guys where you root for him, right? You root for him, like a Gardner Minshew. But eventually, you kind of know that this guy may be limited. And if he's limited at quarterback, your franchise will be limited in what they could do. And so I'm looking at that. Like, that makes perfect sense. Tua to Washington. Houston will send off Deshaun Watson to Miami. And now what will Houston get back in return? Because Miami doesn't have these sexy picks. They got the 13th overall. And we know Houston's going to have a top 5 pick, yes. But what else will they get back in return? With Washington being involved, it wouldn't shock me if they look at maybe a Montez Sweat or Matthew Ioannidis, the 2 defensive players that they have on their young defensive front. Ioannidis has more experience in the league, but Montez Sweat is an absolute beast. He's a monster. And Houston would love to look at him, bringing him in. He's still on his rookie deal as well. Houston has a lot of opportunities here if this falls through. They want to get the picks back, and so they are prioritizing picks, but they will get a couple of players back. Excuse me. I'm just curious to see who that'll be. And with my speculation of Zach Cunningham moving on, with my own speculation, which I tweeted, that David Culley has not committed to Scottie Phillips, I finally think he realizes that there needs to be a change in that run game. Would it be shocking if Houston gets a running back in return?
No, it would not be. Like I mentioned, there are a lot of moving pieces regarding this trade for Deshaun Watson, because at the end of the day, everybody got to keep in mind, whatever – at the end of the day, regardless how you feel about it, Deshaun Watson still holds the key to a lot of these speculation because he has the no trade clause. But look, like I keep mentioning, there's a lot of moving parts. Of course, John and myself, we're going to continue monitoring this situation. I also want to mention another team that could potentially get involved, but I'm not too sure, are the Denver Broncos. They have been floating around out there, but it seems like they are not as serious to get involved in a 3-team trade like the Washington football team is. So that's going to conclude this quick hit edition of Locked On Texans. Of course, you guys know on Thursday show is crossover Thursday, which means we'll be doing the crossover with the Arizona Texans. The Arizona Cardinals, as we preview the Week 7 match between the Houston Texans and the Arizona Cardinals. And Lord have mercy, just please be with us because that game is going to be very bad.
Houston has found themselves in another 18-point underdog situation. And so for some fans, it's going to be good and fun seeing J.J. Watt and DeAndre Hopkins. For others, It's going to be sad and depressing because you're going to look at both sides of the ball and remember what used to be. Y'all might have to put on y'all Carl Thomas sweaters and look out the window. I'm Johnson Sports Guy Hickman. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Texans. Follow me on Twitter at Some Sports Guy. Make sure you take those same couple of fingers, scroll over to YouTube, type in Locked On Texans, subscribe, like, and as you guys have been doing an amazing job of, make sure you comment.
And as always, I'm your host, Cody Davis. Please remember to follow me on Twitter at CodyDavis_24. Once again, that's Cody, COTYDAVIS_24. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace.